Welcome back to our next session. This should be really insightful. It's about how generative AI enhances retention and loyalty. So we talked about how much pressure there is on costs and how digital costs are rising and how we can get more out of our existing customer base. We're going to talk today, we're going to hear more about how we can use AI to get the most out of that. So we're really excited. Bopp is here from Kate Spade, North America Kate Spade. It's good to have Amanda here. And Michele is here, the SVP of Persado. So welcome to you both, and I'll turn the time over to you.
So welcome, everybody. I think today we're talking about loyalty and retention, and I think we all know how critical it is to cultivate customer loyalty. And by customer loyalty, we mean like engaging customers so that they stay with your brand for years, right? Buying more frequently, buying larger purchases, even when it's uncertain times and even with the explosion of competition. And loyal customers, make for profitable businesses. Research shows that loyal customers, the brands who have loyal behaviors, not only grow faster, but also decrease their customer acquisition costs. So we're going to talk about how do you grow customer loyalty in 2023, and also how does AI play into that. So, back to here. Oops, hang on. So I'm excited to be here with Amanda Bopp. As she was introduced, she's the VP of North America of Marketing and E-commerce at Kate Spade, which I think everyone knows is one of the 3 brands of Tapestry. Amanda also happens to be a finalist for the CommerceNext Awards, which we're giving out. The winners will be announced tomorrow for how Kate Spade creates joyful and relevant experiences across the customer journey, and she's been a pioneer in doing that. And so we're going to hear today how Kate Spade, in fact, and her team, Amanda's team, leverages data and generative AI technology to help with loyalty. So Amanda, you want to give us a little background?
Sure, absolutely. So hi everyone, it's so wonderful to be here this afternoon. I'll tell you a little bit about Kate Spade, who we are, and then our journey into leveraging AI to enhance personalization and loyalty. Kate Spade, as many of you know, is owned by Tapestry, as Michele said. Tapestry is a leading global house of brands with other sister brands such as Coach and Stuart Weitzman. Some of my sister brands colleagues are here. And so essentially, Tapestry is a $600 billion company. Excuse me, yes, we generated about $600 billion in revenue in 2022. And a big portion of that revenue has been driven digitally. And how we got there is that way back in the early days of the pandemic in 2020, we kicked off an enterprise-wide transformation. And there were 3 core tenets of the transformation. 1, we really wanted to sharpen our focus on the consumer. 2, we wanted to leverage data better and really embrace a digital mindset. And 3, we wanted to create a leaner and more responsive organization. Now, just prior to this enterprise-wide transformation, at Kate Spade, we had been really kind of scratching our heads and figuring out what we could do to better improve our business. And we identified that we had an asset in our existing customer base that we hadn't fully leveraged. So late in 2019, we brought Persado on board and started experimenting with them as it pertains to email subject lines. And what we said was, this is a brand new thing, let's be open to experimentation, let's test, let's learn, and let's see what happens. And pretty quickly, we saw really, really encouraging results. We saw double-digit increases in all of the email engagement KPIs. And so we got really excited about it and continued to lean into this capability as a brand. So fast forward back again to 2020, when Tapestry was willing and able to take on that broader transformation, we knew that Persado and AI, as it pertains to language, should be part of our transformation, and we're able to successfully take the learnings we had built at Kate Spade and apply them to our sister brands. And that was one of the drivers, one of the key elements within our broader digital transformation.
So let's talk a little bit more about, what you've been doing through our partnership over the last 4 years regarding the use of AI, and how it's the insights and the data and the personalized language have helped you on this journey?
Yeah, for sure. As I said, we started out really basic. We were just looking at language in email subject lines. We felt like if we could use language that was more relevant to the consumer, she'd be more likely to open the email, and so on and so forth. And then we expanded, because we had seen so much success within email subject lines, we expanded into a variety of different touch points across the marketing ecosystem. And what was really important to us was not just that we were identifying words that the consumer would really resonate with, but that we were matching words with emotions. And this is really important for all brands, particularly for brands who are in the fashion and accessory space. One of the things that I always say is that, we have to sell a lot based on emotion. Nobody needs a $400 handbag. Many people like them. I am one of those people who like them quite a bit, but nobody really needs that. And so if you lean too much simply on function, you're actually missing some of the magic that is needed to actually get a customer to purchase. So in our work with Persado and in leveraging the AI, we wanted to make sure we were balancing not just the words, but the emotion. And the more testing that we did across all of the marketing touch points, the smarter we got about the language as well as the sentiment behind the language to help us better connect with customers. And you can see here, these are a couple of different examples of use cases where we were able to apply the learnings from Persado and apply language and sentiment, again, across all marketing touch points. This is actually one of my favorite ones. So this is like a really good example, right, of something that nobody needs, that you need emotion to buy. This is a handbag of a shaggy dog, which is fantastic. And people went crazy over this bag. It was selling like crazy. But again, who needs a bag that's shaped like a shaggy dog, right? And so that we knew we had to be really smart about the language we used in communicating why this was exciting for customers, or really leaning into that emotional sentiment. So we leveraged one of our better performing tactics at the lower funnel, which is our ads on Meta, using our dynamic ads on Meta. And we actually were able to incorporate AI-driven language from Persado to help us connect the right sentiment and right words with the right audience. So you're seeing, we had some copy variants that said, "You're getting lots to love," some that said, "Too much of a good thing is wonderful," and then the other is styles you have to see with those emojis there. And that was another thing that we found, is that our consumer really loves an emoji. So again, just one example of how we can take a product that's super emotional and leverage science to help us figure out what the best way to serve it up to a customer is, and what the right language is in terms of doing that.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate that. So given how much you and your team uses generative AI and Persado, how is it to sort of seed control on that? And how do you figure out, when and how do you let the AI do its stuff versus intervening, and how do you find that balance, and are there criteria for using it?
Yeah, so that's actually the really tough part of all of this is, as brands, we love to control things, right? Our brands are very precious to us. Our brand voice is very important. It's a part of who we are. It's something that our customer knows and recognizes. And I think with all of the advancements in technology and in AI, I think the internal struggle for marketers is, how much do we give up control over, and where do we kind of give it over to the science, and then how much of that magic do we want to retain? At Tapestry, we talk a lot about magic and logic. And this is an ongoing conversation for us, right? I think, we get to a place with Persado and with AI where we say, okay, here are the brand guidelines we want to leverage, and here's how fast we're going to let the algorithm kind of take it. And then sometimes we misstep a little bit, and we feel like we have to correct that balance. What I would say is, as a general rule of thumb, is think about people in your life, think about different circumstances in your life, and think about which types of communications you would cede to a machine versus the ones that you would want to make sure you made in person. So as an example, if I hurt someone's feelings who was important to me, I would want to make sure that I made that apology in person. If I was just writing back to a fairly generic text and just wanted to say thank you, I'm okay with my phone kind of generating that message. And so along those same lines, if there are simple automated responses around something like an email subject line or a CTA, that feels a bit more comfortable to have the machine do more of that. But something like customer service, where our customer service agents are, intercepting calls from potentially frustrated customers, you want to make sure you have more of a human element there.
Yeah. And so how do you take, like here we could talk about some of the insights you've got, maybe you go through that, and then what do you do with those insights, and I know share them with the other brands and things like that?
Yeah. So for those of you who know and work with me, you know that I love data, but even more so, I'm super passionate about insights. And so the important thing is not just what you learn within one test, it's how you can apply it more broadly to the rest of the marketing ecosystem. And so some of the specific things that we've learned through our partnership with Persado is that for our customer, gratitude and intimacy language really works well. Before we had brought Persado on board in late 2019, we were doing a lot of messaging that wasn't as optimistic in nature as some of the language we use now. There was a lot of, this is ending soon, you have to get it now. And I think in terms of trying to create a sense of urgency, I think we may have had a tone that was potentially more aggressive than we intended. And we learned from Persado that our customer really responds to something that is a bit softer and that feels a bit more upbeat. And if you take a step back and think about that, that's actually quite consistent with our brand. So that makes a lot of sense. We hadn't fully had that wisdom way back when. We also learned that our customer loves holidays. And again, this is pretty self-evident. We are a celebration brand. So what works less well for us is when we use typical fashion parlance and talk about the season of fall or spring. We don't get as strong of a response. But when we tell her, hey, this is the best gift for Valentine's Day, it's a coin purse shaped like a heart, and all that good stuff, she really responds. So when we talk about those consumer-driven holidays, that really works for our consumer much more so than, again, that typical fashion seasonal language. We also know that encouraging her to indulge a little bit is important. And again, I'm saying all of these things, they sound super self-evident now as we think about that bag that looked like a shaggy dog. If that's not an indulgence, I don't know what is. So again, she's looking for permission. Nobody needs a bag that looks like a dog. But if you're gonna do it, indulge, go for it. So those are a lot of things that we learned. In terms of sharing with our sister brands, again, I'm really lucky to have some of my colleagues here with me from Coach and Stuart Weitzman. I think we share in two ways. One, we have really great partners at the Tapestry level in our Digital Center of Excellence, and they help us to take learnings and best practices and distill them throughout all the brands. But the other thing that I would say is we're actually a really great community of marketers and digital folks at Tapestry, and so we have a lot of touch points and opportunities for informal collaboration and sharing. And we all love to win. We love our brands and we want them to be successful, and we know that we're only successful together, so the more sharing, the better.
Right. The slides are messed up. Hang on. Oh, there they are. So one other question I had for your team. So how do you actually empower your team to do what they need to do?
Yeah.
And without overstepping, yeah.
So as all of you know, and as all of you experience, we're all really busy. We have a lot of things to do, particularly in a digital business and a digital ecosystem. There are so many levers to pull, so many different campaigns to run, and so many pieces of data to ingest. And so I think the way that we work best is when everybody feels empowered to own and drive their particular slice of the business within the context of the broader brand and business goals. So for example, our email marketing team really understands that they have very clear traffic conversion and demand goals. And so because they understand those goals and they have the accountability towards them, they know that they have my full support in experimenting and pushing forward with things that are going to help us move the needle and drive the business, obviously in a brand safe way. But I think giving people really that accountability to those business metrics, I think actually opens them up to think creatively and to push into places that, quite frankly, as managers and leaders, we don't have the time to think through every opportunity and to identify every kind of thing next.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think that's about it. Is there anything else that you're thinking about this year that you've been working on that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think for this year, I think what's interesting is, again, we've been working with you guys obviously since 2019, and now, as many of you have experienced here at this conference and in other places, AI has really become sort of a buzzword. And so I think for all of us as digital leaders, as marketers, as brand folks, I think it's just figuring out, again, kind of what we talked about with that control versus, where do you let the machine and the science take over? I think that's going to become more and more of part of the conversation as we figure out what the right place for AI is, throughout the digital ecosystem.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I really, I'm sure everyone here is happy to hear about what you guys are doing, and it's really cutting edge. Thank you. Thank you.